2024 is on track to be the worst year for the housing market in terms of how many closed sales and how many homes have been sold, essentially since the early 90s. The reason for this is obviously because interest rates and prices are just far too high for most people to afford. Well, then you might want to ask the question, who is actually buying homes at today's prices and rates? Turns out, mostly old rich people, which I'm guessing owns most of these houses right over here in Burbank and the Hollywood area, because this neighborhood is absolutely beautiful. National Association of Realtors recently just came out with their home buyer and home seller profile to give people an idea of who is actually transacting in the market right now. And there's actually some very interesting things that we can look at to get an insight into what's going on, guys. And really, it's no surprise, but it's also very sad at the same time that first-time home buyers have dropped to a historic low at only 24% of home buyers. And just last year, it was 32%. So you have seen a tremendous decrease in the amount of first-time home buyers in the market due to all these costs. I don't see any reason why that would recover anytime soon, given the circumstances in the housing market. In fact, take a look at this. The average age of a home buyer today in America is 56 years old. Okay, last year it was 49 years old. So now we're talking 7 more years. You got to be 7 years older to be able to afford to buy a house now in this country. That's how long it's taking people to be able to save up enough money and be financially stable enough to become a homeowner these days. Is 56 years old. Thinking about it, if you take out a 30-year mortgage and say you never even move, you never refinance, you never do anything like that, you're gonna be 86 years old by the time that house is paid off. For first-time home buyers who actually can afford to buy a house right now, the average age for them is sitting at 38 years old. That's 1 year older than me. And I understand it, I get it. You know, it's taken a long time for myself to get, financially stable in this world. It's not an easy thing to do. And it doesn't really come as a big shocker that this is what most people are facing right now in terms of this is when you can buy your first home. But last year it was just 35 years old. And why do I say it's mainly old rich people buying houses? Well, because you have two groups of people in the housing market right now. You have first-time home buyers that are scraping together every bit of cash that they can, or even getting a gift from the bank of mom and dad to become a homeowner, or you have old rich people paying cash for homes. That's pretty much the two segments of the market right now, without a whole lot in the middle. And of course, it's a lot easier for current homeowners to move up in the world and potentially buy a home for cash, because say you bought one of these Hollywood mansions over here 20, 30 years ago for, pennies compared to what it's worth today, and now you're selling it for 10 times as much as what you paid for it back then. So, when you come into that windfall of cash, it becomes easy to pay cash for a home. But a lot of this boils down to income, okay? And what I've told you guys before on the channel is the median income here in the US is about $75,000 household income, okay? But the average home buyer's median income right now is sitting at $108,000. And I've explained this to people on the channel before, that if you want to become a homeowner, you need to basically make 6 figures now. That's just the way it is. It's not the way I want it. It's not like that's the way it should be. It's just the reality of what we're facing today. Look how gorgeous this street is right here, guys. But when we're talking about median household income, right? Last year, the average home buyer's median income was $97,000. This year, it's $108,000. And do you think that's because people are all of a sudden making more money? No, it's because of how expensive it is to become a homeowner. So people who buy homes need to make this extra money to even become a homeowner. It's really that simple. Repeat buyers, meaning people that have already bought and sold a house before, their median income is at $114,000 right now. Married couples, they by far remain the top home buyers across the country at 62% of all buyers, and single female buyers are actually in the lead behind them at 20% of all home buyers. Compared to single males, only 8%, guys. You need to step up your game. I know this isn't a gender war or anything like that, but traditionally, men are supposed to be the breadwinners, and you're falling behind. But you know what else is helping these home buyers right now? Not having kids. because 73% of recent home buyers say they did not have a child under the age of 18 in their home, which is the highest share ever recorded since they started this study back in 1981. This study's been going on for over 40 years, and highest share of people ever recorded with no kids as home buyers today. It's almost like you can't afford both. Some people are shacking up together. In fact, 17% of home buyers purchased a multi-generational home. So they're trying to save money by living with their parents or living with some other family members to help split the cost, which is smart. Real estate agents still helped with 86% of all home buying transactions. So apparently the bottom didn't fall out after the NAR settlement came through and all the new commission rules have come into play. In fact, from what I can tell, I can't say this is the case everywhere, but all the real estate agents I talked to over the summer here, when I went to different open houses here, literally all of them have said that they're still treating things business as usual. The seller is still picking up the full amount of the commission. And in fact, I even went to one open house. You can take a look at this sign here, where even though you can't advertise the commission being paid on the MLS, this real estate agent was smart enough to realize, like, well, I can still put up a sign at the open house and let all the buyers know that the seller is still paying a commission and this is how much. So you don't have to worry about that with your agent. So I thought that was pretty clever. Now that we're getting into the holiday season, it's the time of year where you really start reflecting on your life for the year and you start thinking about your family and your friends and your health. And that's why today's video is sponsored by Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace, and they can save you money and time and provide your family with a financial safety net in case something happens to you. Your loved ones could really use a life insurance payout to cover debts and routine expenses in case something were to happen to you. Then you can use the money to pay mortgage payments, pay down bills that were left behind. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. And really the benefit to using Policy Genius is it allows you to compare your options by getting quotes from the country's top insurance companies with just a few clicks. So you can check life insurance off your holiday wish list by heading over to policygenius.com/Michael Bordenero, or by clicking the link down in the description below, or using the QR code on the screen. This was kind of shocking to me too, that 90% of buyers apparently express satisfaction with their agent's responsiveness, knowledge of the purchase process, honesty, and integrity. So maybe the new NAR commission rules are already starting to weed out some of the horrible real estate agents, considering that 90% of people felt that way. I was surprised to hear that it's that many, to be honest. The median down payment for all home buyers was about 18%, and 9% for first-time home buyers, and for repeat home buyers it was 23%, the highest down payments for the first-time home buyer since 1997. The reason for that, once again, is because of two things. One, a lot of these down payments are not coming from the pockets of these first-time home buyers, they're being gifted to them, but also because housing is so expensive. So naturally, the down payments are gonna have to be higher. Just like when we hear all these numbers about all this increased spending in the economy, it's not that people are spending more because they're rich and full of cash, it's because everything costs more, so naturally the spending is going to go up. But according to first-time home buyers, 69% of them actually claim that they relied on their own savings to save the down payment and buy their home. So I hope that's true, and if it is, good for them. And 25% of them said that they used loans or gifts from friends and family, and 21% said they used financial assets, and 7% said they used inheritances. And a record 26% of home buyers actually paid cash for their homes. So a lot of people have been able to really cash in on this last 4 or 5 years, guys. People have pulled out a tremendous amount of equity from homes. People who sold a bunch of assets from the stock market during this time frame have also been able to become extremely wealthy relatively quickly because of this bubble situation. If you capitalized on it and sold at the right time, you could make a tremendous amount of money. The typical age of a home seller right now is 63 years old, which is also the highest ever recorded since 1981. And the number one reason that sellers say that they're selling was the desire to move closer to friends and family, followed by the home was too small, or the home was too large and the neighborhood becoming less desirable. So people being close to family is the number one reason for anyone to sell a house today. And that actually also lines up with some of the people I've talked to here in California, because I've asked people like, hey, why do you stay here, with how much it costs and how crazy things are and all this and that, right? And the number one answer is because my friends and family are here. So no matter how crazy things get or how high the taxes are, people want to be close to their families, and I don't think that's ever going to change. 90% of sellers still used a real estate agent, even giving the new commission changes. So pretty much business as usual. It seems like not much has really changed, guys, except you have to sign a new document now, which is kind of what I predicted from the very beginning with this. One thing that was pointed out to me by one of my viewers is that Zillow is now putting climate info on its listings, and I don't know if most people know this, but if you use Redfin, they've been doing this for a long time. In fact, at least a couple of years they've been doing this. This is not really new information that buyers have access to. It's only new on Zillow. But I want to know, just put in the comments, if that's something that influences your buying decision. Are you going to look at a listing that you love and not buy it because of different climate factors? Like, for example, here's a listing that's somewhere near where I'm walking, a big fourplex for sale. And you can see here that the climate risks are kind of mixed. The fire factor is major, the air factor is major, the heat factor is major, only the wind and the flood factor is minimal. So 3 out of 5 are not looking too good for this neighborhood. And that would be pretty much the same for all of these houses I'm walking by here, guys. And I haven't seen a house for sale yet, but when I was just looking at the area, most of these houses are 2 million plus. Would you buy a 2 million plus house in an area that is prone to wildfires, or is prone to air quality risk, or is prone to getting too hot throughout the year? It's funny because if you were to look at this in Miami, all of these would be extremely high except for the air quality. But guess what? People are still buying there. So it's like, I wonder how much this even matters to people, Also, one thing I predicted a little over a week ago, maybe it was a week and a half ago, is that TGI Fridays was going to file for bankruptcy. Yeah, that just happened. Their restaurants have been in decline for years, and it's finally catching up with them. And it's game over, guys. It's time to face reality that people aren't interested in crappy food for high prices anymore. That's just not what people want. People want value right now more than anything. That's the same reason the fast food restaurants are suffering. You can't sell garbage food for a lot of money. You can sell garbage food, but it has to be cheap. That's how you get people to buy garbage food. And obviously, it's not good for anybody to eat that stuff, but the cheaper it is, the more tempting it is. I saw another story today that had some really interesting information about 7 big clues that a recession is going to clobber the stock market and this economy, and things are going to change pretty soon, guys. This is something I never even knew and never really paid attention to, but apparently recessions usually begin in the year after a presidential election. It says here that in the past century, 8 US recessions have started in the year after a presidential election, and 6 of them began in the actual election year. Where does that put us right now? This was just so funny when I read this. It says here that the idea is that the party in charge pulls power levers in order to stoke the economy ahead of the election to garner votes. Then after the election year, the hangover sets in. Does that sound familiar to what's happening right now? I feel like that exactly describes the situation that we are in right now with today's economy. Next reason, valuation risk is extremely high. It says here that the extreme valuations are troubling for a number of reasons, because the S&P SPX trades at around 22 times forward earnings. The only time it has persistently traded above 21 was between 1999 and 2000, and during the COVID stimulus era of 2021. And they say here that if the US markets fell back to their long-term median valuations, the S&P 500 would decline 26%. And let's face it, the stock market and the housing market are due for a correction, guys. And I think a 25 to 30% correction is right in order, given what we've seen happen. And that very well could happen. We've already seen housing markets across the country that have depreciated by double digits already. I don't think that's going to happen everywhere, because real estate is so local, and some areas are just always going to be in demand. Like, for example, guys, like literally a block or two from here is Warner Brothers Studios. Like, even with all the climate risks apparently associated with this neighborhood, you think people are going to all of a sudden stop being interested in buying homes here on these lovely looking streets that's walking distance to Warner Brothers if you're an executive or an actor or somebody that, needs to go to the studio every day? Now, it might be a different story if Warner Brothers went out of business and there was no more Warner Brothers to maybe support this local economy, then things could change. But I don't really see that happening. But the next reason that we're facing some major economic headwinds right now is because it's going to take a long time to reverse the impact of the aggressive monetary tightening that was done by the Fed. In fact, they're already supposed to cut rates again later this week, which is going to be interesting to watch and see what happens to mortgage rates from there. Because something I've been reporting on is that mortgage rates have gone nowhere but up since the first rate cut. And if it continues to go up after that, they're going to have a major problem on their hands, guys. And that's where I think things are going to go. Obviously, nobody can say for sure, but my prediction is we're going to see those mortgage rates continue to climb. Ooh, here's a big one, and my favorite one from the whole list so far is that inflation may not continue in a downward trend, just like it's actually not right now. I showed you guys the inflation data just a few videos ago on how the core inflation is going up right now, and the PCE has been stuck at 2.7% since July of this year, and it's already November. Here we have a house for sale, 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom, $3.2 million. It's another flip that they bought back in March of 2022 for $2.1 million. Turned around and tried listing it for sale back in May of 2024 for $3.3. Couldn't get it sold at that price, lowered it $100K, got under contract, now it's back on the market. Maybe it's another one of those houses where they couldn't get insurance because after all, this is a fire risk area. But take a look at these property taxes, guys. The previous owner was only paying $2,300 a year in property taxes. Now the new owner's paying $26,000 a year. What a jump. Maybe that's why they're selling. There's also a few hidden warning signs in the unemployment data, which I've gone over in the past, but in case you missed that, here's a refresher. The number one thing is that the number of unemployed workers is rising at a rate that normally signals a recession. That's the SOM rule that we've talked about before here on the channel, because the rate of unemployment, how fast it has gone up, is not necessarily the amount, which even though we know that the actual amount being reported is underreported by a wide margin, okay? So you can't take the unemployment rate at face value because of the way they calculate unemployment today versus the way they did 30 years ago. But whenever unemployment rises as fast as it has been rising over the past few months, that signals trouble. The next big one is that the number of full-time jobs is contracting. As of the end of September, full-time jobs were down 0.5% compared to a year earlier. And all of these jobs that we're getting, which are very few, especially compared to the horrible jobs report we recently got, most of these are part-time jobs, guys. In fact, this has never actually happened outside of a recession. So how can you have things that normally happen in a recession, like right now, and not call it a recession? Sounds just like denial to me. You have companies that are reluctant to take on full-time workers and are hiring part-time workers instead, which is also a sign of a recession. But it also means less income for people, or people need to work, 2 or 3 part-time jobs in order to make a full-time income. And the actual jobs numbers themselves also signal that we're in a recession, because when non-farm payroll growth falls below 1.4%, a recession follows. We're there right now. The October growth was at 1.35%, which is significantly lower than 1.4%. Usually this is the turning point right here that actually they look at and say, okay, we're officially in a recession. And here's the problem too, guys. When you have low job growth, low income growth like we have right now, that's not even beating inflation. When you look at the surface numbers, on the surface it looks like the wages are outpacing inflation. But once you factor in taxes and personal inflation rates and how much the cost of living has really gone up for people, it actually is negative. The wages are actually under the amount of inflation for most people, because you can't look at the PCI, or the PCE and say, yeah, that's the real inflation number, because they're not looking at food, they're not looking at housing, they're not looking at energy, which are the three most expensive things that we all need, and those are the things that all went up in price the most. But when you have lower job growth and lower income growth, this leads to weaker demand for all services and products for all businesses, which generates weaker employment growth. That creates a vicious cycle for the economy. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're seeing the amount of jobs dwindle. We're seeing more people lose jobs. You're seeing more part-time jobs than full-time jobs, giving people less money unless they want to have 3 jobs. So where do you think this leads? It leads to an economy where people cannot spend as much money as they did 2 years ago. And just like this said here, one of the big warning signs and one thing that we typically see happen is that the current administration in charge, whenever it's an election year, will do everything they can to kind of pump the economy up and make things look good before the election. And that's just the way it is. It's going to be like that in 4 years from now, and the 4 years after that, we're going to see this happen again, guys. I'm sure in 2028, you're going to be hearing me talking about the same thing, because it will happen again, regardless of who's in charge at that point. And I wouldn't be beating yourself up right now if you've been wanting to buy a house but haven't been able to for one reason or another, because if you heard what I said earlier, according to the home buyer and home seller profile, you have to be doing very well financially right now, or have family that is doing very well financially to become a home buyer, guys. Like, you can't just be doing average, because like I said, average is $75K a year for the median household income. You need to be punching well above that weight class in order to be able to become a homeowner, especially comfortably in today's environment. But keep your eyes open, make sure you look for deals, make sure you know what you want, and you never know, something might come up. I've heard plenty of success stories from you guys before in the past about these sort of things. Remember, I always offer free real estate services to anybody who needs them. The link for that is always down in the description of my videos. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.